Hello, family members. Hope you're having a nice day today. Well, I want to talk about intelligence today because intelligence has a lot of nuances and people don't always understand it. They don't know when they're seeing it necessarily. So, the impetus for all this is Elon Musk. You have these two camps. Elon Musk is a genius, Elon Musk is an idiot. And, which is the real truth, right? Well, he's been marketed as a genius, certainly. And, say Joe Rogan, who talks to a lot of people, thinks that he's a genius. So, is there something there? I decided to actually watch Joe Rogan and Elon Musk talking. And it was instantly apparent to me that he is dumb. He's not smart. He may have some level of intelligence, but the thing about intelligence is part of it is just raw ability to, be cognitive, I guess, to be able to understand complex concepts or explain complex concepts. And part of it is an intellectual curiosity. You can't really be smart without just being like obsessed with finding out things. When you don't know something, you crave to know it. Look at all the smartest people in the world. When you think about smart people, like scientists and doctors and researchers and academics and whatnot, like a lot of them are very focused on a very narrow, obscure field because they followed a thread as far as it would go and it took them somewhere very obscure. They always talk about like the Dunning-Kruger effect and how like people who know a little bit about a topic understand that they don't know much about that topic. People who know a lot about that topic are probably going to be pretty aware of how much they know and how much they don't know. It's people who have just a little bit of knowledge, like a moderate amount of knowledge, who then vastly overestimate their ability to understand a particular topic. And, it would be easy to just apply that to Elon, but I think it's a little more complicated than that. I think part of the reason why any intelligence Elon has is not being used in an intelligent way is he's got the rich man disease. He's got too many people who are willing to do whatever it is he says because he's rich and powerful and famous and all of that. And if someone pushes back on him, someone corrects him, someone challenges him, he doesn't ever have to speak to them again. And that is not beneficial for your intelligence. Part of why our scientific community is able to make such strides in these modern times is because of the peer review system. Everything that is announced is then dissected and picked apart by everybody who's reading that. That really gives people a chance to see things that they missed. There's a Bobby Broccoli video it's a video series about cold fusion. And in it, he talks about how these people who were electrochemists made some really basic errors because they didn't talk to a physicist. if they had gotten more feedback from people who could challenge them, it may have saved them a lot of grief in the long run. And yeah, you need that. You need people who can point out the things to you that you're wrong about. I'm very self-reflective. Like, I probably spend too much time being self-reflective, to be honest. And if the noise in the background is bothering you, by the way, that's my dog playing with the toy I gave her. It was my fault. I'm sorry. But, I can call myself out. And that's something that I had to work really hard to get to that point. Because I'm such a private person, I don't really have a whole lot of people who can challenge me. And so, just because of access, not that they aren't incapable. I just don't need to talk to them in a deep way long enough, often enough to be able to get there, right? So I kind of learned, like, if I wanted to be able to be a person I could be proud of, I would have to learn to kind of call myself out, I have to learn to be aware of my own potential biases and examine my biases, because I wasn't necessarily going to have someone else do it for me. So Elon might be somewhat intelligent, but he's not intelligent enough to call himself out, to understand that he could be wrong. It is really easy for a smart person to tell if another person is smart or not. It's not necessarily easy for a person who is not as, I guess educated is the word I want. I don't mean educated in the sense like they went to school, but I mean like in the sense that they know what they're talking about, that kind of educated. But like, if somebody is talking about something they don't know about to people who do know about it, it's immediately apparent when someone doesn't know what they're talking about, right? But if that same person talks to somebody who isn't aware, then, that person may be, bamboozled by elegant phrasing or, things that sound deep or complex or meaningful that aren't necessarily saying much of anything, Smart. When I was a kid, a lot of people would tell me that I was smart. And I mean, that's not incorrect, but the main reason they told me that was because I was verbose, because I had a large vocabulary and I did not hesitate to use it in situations that may not have been appropriate. I don't do code switching. I'm just not that kind of person. Like, when I was working in customer service, I didn't talk down to my customers. I didn't simplify my speech, but I did become very aware of how to say things to people in a way that they could hear. That's so much more important than the actual words you use, by the way, is if you tell somebody something in a way that they're not willing to hear, they can't buy into what you're saying, it doesn't matter how good what you're saying is. Like, people have to buy in. If you can't get people to buy in, you're done, Anyway, tangent over. So how can somebody who isn't necessarily very academic tell if someone's smart or not? What is it that you would look out for? Well, the main thing that you can do if you're not certain if someone is actually smart or if they're just very well marketed like Elon, is listen to people who are experts in the fields he talks about. And they can tell you quite clearly what he's wrong about and what he's right about, which is not usually very much. You know, one of the things that made me want to make this video, and it's a little petty, but it's true, is Elon nixing the whole moon thing, because it just shows how like unrealistic his Mars goals are. Like, going to the moon was the first step into going to Mars. Going into the moon and establishing a presence there could be the thing that makes going to Mars a viable option, like for humans. So his goal, the thing that he wants to make happen, he just made that much less likely to happen during his lifetime. And like, oh, yeah, it's petty. It's petty because I live close enough to Kennedy Space Center that I can see the launches from my backyard. Well, my front yard too. Just it's the better view from the backyard. I know a lot of people vicariously through my parents because they grew up. My mom worked at KSC as her first job in high school. She worked in the cafeteria. But also her dad worked there, and a lot of her friends' dads worked there. And my dad, same thing. And so, you know, I know people through them that are going to lose their jobs over this. It's going to affect the economy of the local area. Like, it's not some, you know, funny, petty thing like, oh, he's shooting himself in the mouth by doing this. He's ruining people's lives because he's too arrogant to take a moment and look at how important that mission was to his ultimate goal. Like, obviously the reason that he didn't do that is because he only cares about Mars, and he also doesn't care about anybody else's space company, right? So, you know, screw you, Blue Origin. I mean, a lot of people are losing their jobs at Blue Origin. It's really sad in some ways, especially since they've done so much work building up that facility and ruining the natural environment. And I like to go birding over at KSC and Merritt Island, or I used to before I was housebound, but sorry. Again, tangent. That is actually, I think, something that you can use, though, to tell if a person is really intelligent or not. Because if they're really intelligent, they're going to have like all these facts in their brain that they find so fascinating that they have to explain to you. If they're talking about the subject. A lot of people who are smart have more social grace than I do. I don't necessarily just like overwhelm people with lectures. No. Oh my gosh, I was doing that to my goddaughter last night. It was really funny. I was like, I knew I was doing it. I was calling myself out, but I couldn't stop it. Luckily, she was a willing audience. Thank goodness for her. Thank you for my goddaughter. I love her. Tangent again. You know, but that's the thing, like, I have a lot of different trains of thought, you know, and I think one way that you can tell a person is really smart is if you're having a conversation with them and you go off topic and have like a big long tangent, they actually remember to go back to the topic that you were talking about before the tangent. Like, some of the smartest people I know, when I have those conversations, that our conversations are like zoop, boop, zoop, boop, zoop. It's the weirdest thing, but it's really like, if you are intelligent and you speak to an intelligent person, it's kind of a relief sometimes. I like people, I have friends and family of all intelligences, and I love and respect all of them. But it's kind of nice when you find somebody who can actually like banter with you. Like my ex-girlfriend and I were really good at that bantering thing. Like I'm used to saying things a lot and people not understanding at all what I'm saying and just having to be okay with that. And it was nice to have someone around who actually got it. Like um yeah, I so often I'll say something and I'm making some sort of very clever, obscure reference to something and nobody's gonna understand. And it's just like, intelligent people say a lot of intelligent things. I mean, they say dumb things too, don't get me wrong. But, yeah, intellectual rigor is part of intelligence. And Elon does not have that. He's lazy. Like, he is straight up admitted to paying people to level up like one of his video game accounts because otherwise he wouldn't be able to stay competitive with people who actually like spend time playing the game. You know, he could pay people to do all the research for him and then summarize it in a way that he understands, but he's not going to listen to other people. It's the same problem Kanye West has. Kanye West has some raw intelligence, but he also has no intellectual rigor. And that has led him down a really strange path. Yeah. I feel bad for people who have some intelligence and then get famous and let their previous understanding that they're smart blind them to the fact that they have lost all of their intellectual rigor and they no longer are relatively saying anything intelligent, Like, there's two things that you have to say smart things. You have to be smart enough to understand what you're talking about, and you have to have done enough research to know what you're talking about. And maybe Elon Musk, maybe Kanye West have the raw intelligence part, but they don't have the second part. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, intelligence alone is not that useful without the intellectual rigor, without the curiosity driving you to truly understand a topic, to be able to see when you're wrong and admit it and change your point of view. Like, people these days kind of look at like interpretations of scientific data as something like a political stance. And I'm not going to say that there's no politics in science, because there is. I mean, there's politics in everything. You can't get away from politics. Politics is just human interactions, all right? But I'm sorry, the cat distracted me and my dad's calling me. He can wait. I'll call him back. I completely lost my train of thought. This is why I don't think I would necessarily call myself that smart anymore. Like, I hate to say it, but, I have this brain fog, and it makes it hard for me to remember a lot of things. And it does make it hard for me sometimes to, follow through on a train of thought or have the intellectual energy to be able to, really research something. I can't focus to read anymore. That makes it a little hard. I can skim things, but it's hard for me to really, really research sometimes because my brain just won't let me, you know? Uh, so, how to tell if someone's smart? Listen to people who actually have expertise. And by expertise, I do mean, people who have studied a topic, people who have worked in a field. That's usually a really good way to know that somebody knows what they're talking about. Because most jobs, no matter what they are, you basically learn it on the job. Like, you might get a whole bunch of like education as sort of like a base understanding went to go in, but you don't know what you're doing until they're out there doing it. I mean, that's why, student teaching is a thing. Like, you're not going to ever be able to say this person isn't a effective educator without them actually getting in a classroom and working with children and other, faculty and the administration and all of the things that go along with it. So if you want to know something about any topic, find somebody who works as an expert in that field. And then find like 2 or 3 other experts, because, there are crackpots out there that, have all the correct education, have all the correct credentials, but what they're saying is absolute gobbledygook. If you find only one academic making a statement, or only a small minority of academics making a single statement, odds are they're wrong, that they are being biased by something that is keeping them from being able to, accept the current scientific consensus or professional consensus, or whatever you'd like to say. So I really I hope people can start to see a little bit more that, Elon Musk is not a genius. He does not know what he is talking about most of the time. I mean, he literally even admitted it in that like weird Oval Office thing where he like dragged along his kid. He said, well, a lot of the things are going to be wrong, so I should definitely be fact checked. Like, he is so unwilling to engage in intellectual rigor for himself that he's just like, it's somebody else's job to come along behind me and fact check me. And that is such a wild point of view, because, once he said something, he has enough authority that people will believe it, even if he is fact checked later. Like, when you put the misinformation out there into the world, you can't just call it back. When I was a kid, I really loved the American Girl books. I didn't have the dolls, but I liked the books. And one of the characters, Felicity, had like a sampler she had to say, or had to make, and it said like, words once uttered, once flown, are no longer your own. And that really stuck with me because it's true. Like, once you say something, people can interpret what you said any way they want. For good reasons or bad reasons. For selfish reasons, for petty reasons, for sincere reasons, for just, being ignorant and not understanding what you meant. You don't have control of what people do with what you've told them once you've told them those things. This is the same reason why I don't like copyright. Once somebody writes a story, comes up with an idea, writes a song, anyone can replicate or remix that. But copyright stifles that part of our creative output. I mean, it's like fan fiction. Fan fiction is so amazing, so creative. I mean, a lot of it's garbage, but there's some really good stuff out there. And it's been a really interesting place for people to start writing and learn how to write. You know, we've had quite a lot of fanfic writers go on to be pretty famous, pretty popular for their original, or maybe not so original, writing that they do, you know? So, I mean, if copyright was really enforced there, that whole thing shouldn't exist. You know, all of that fanfic just shouldn't be there. We shouldn't have that if copyright was truly enforced. And for some reason, there was sort of a collective idea from most authors that they just were not going to pay attention to that and let it kind of exist off on its side. You know, because what they don't seem to understand is fan works are native advertising. They're promoting their original work, you know? Like, if somebody reads a lot of fanfic and it makes them really interested in a fandom, they're more likely to, you know, buy future properties from that fandom or merch from that fandom or attend cons or go, you know, to Universal Studios to see blah, 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 whatever, you know? Like, you know, we need to be able to take people's thoughts and build on them and use our collective intelligence. And the only way that we do that is if we can really listen to each other. And, you know, that's part of academic rigor. That's part of curiosity. That's part of being smart, is listening to people. Like, I feel like I'm, at least one way I'm extremely blessed is I don't have the ability to do much of anything, but I can watch video essays most of the time. And so I've gotten to listen to so many different types of people from all over the world, you know, cis, trans, non-binary, binary trans, you know, black, white, Hispanic, all sorts of different types of people from all over the world, you know, and it's all right there at my fingertips. And I'm able to take all of those pieces and like put them together. And it's like this puzzle, because things that are true will not be contradicted by other things that are true. And so if something is accurate, you don't have to worry about it being disproven. And if something is inaccurate, then you probably want it to be disproven to you so that you can do better in the future. But, you know, if you're smart. So, yeah, a lot of the people who you think are very smart, if you're not, you know, as smart in an academic sense, you may be wrong, is all I'm saying, I guess. So, you know, take that time, question, but question and then listen to the answer. That's something I see a lot in people who are sort of cosplaying intelligence, is they'll ask the question, but they don't actually care about the answer. They think the questioning alone is enough. And it's not. If you don't have that follow through, if you don't ask the question and then Google it or read a book or talk to somebody and learn more, then the question was pointless. It didn't do anything. You know, questioning is great, but it's step one. And if you want to be smarter yourself, That's one very easy thing you can do is question things and then follow through and find the answer. I tell you, you will be amazed by the cool things you'll learn. Because I know a lot more about my local area because my mom and I, when I was on chemo, would do a lot of just like driving around because I wasn't up to doing much more than that. And we would go to like all these like weird backwater towns all over north central Florida and like central Florida. And when we would do that, we'd be like, I wonder why it's named blah, blah, blah. And then we'd look it up and we'd find out like why things were named that way. We'd find out about like, I had no idea about the Ocoee massacre until then. I think that's when I learned about that, is when we were like driving around and learning about like local history. And, you know, uh, Bethune, like learning about her, going to Bethune Beach, stuff like that, uh, because we were curious, because we saw something and we're like, I wonder why that is. And then we followed through. And that, to me, is one of the joys of being intelligent. There's challenges to being intelligent, too. It can be a little depressing sometimes. Like, being smart isn't necessarily a good thing. I don't know. I do advocate for being smarter, but it does come with its, like, depressing realizations. Oh, gosh. Casey just finally settled down, you guys. Like, I'm wrapping up the video, and he's not going to be walking around collecting his nails, of course. But you know what? You get to see him. So I think that's fair. Oh, wait, nope, he's not settled. Oh, Casey, he ran away. Casey, oh, you want to go outside? Oh, yeah, he needs help. He can't open the door. All right, family members, I better take care of this old man. I hope you have a lovely night, and I hope that Elon Musk starts being a little bit more curious. Bye.